One of the big stories over the past week is the LIV Fox Sports marriage. Now they're coming up with a partnership to broadcast LIV. Now we get LIV on TV here locally in the Toronto area. There's a
Oh,
TV station called CHGH Hamilton. It's not affiliated with any of the major sports networks or anything, just a local TV station, and they're broadcasting the LIV. But obviously, that's not going to cut it kind of in the big scale. But LIV and Fox, the thoughts on their marriage?
yeah, that's really interesting because in the US, there's nothing like that. Obviously, you can go on YouTube and watch it. And it's funny because, we're getting more and more to the point where you don't really need traditional TV to watch anything. Obviously, you flip on Netflix, you flip on, streaming this or that. But for some reason, there's still a hang up there with sports. So, you know, paying for the time window is certainly unusual, at least in this day and age. Although that being said, the LPGA, I believe, does that at some points. And I read somewhere that, the Ryder Cup at some point, we're talking 40 years ago, did that. So at some point you do have to start somewhere. But I will say it's definitely makes a big difference in terms of getting viewership. Obviously, I don't think that Live can be relevant, or at least to the point where it's competing with the PGA Tour, if it's not on TV, at least in the US. So whether they had to buy their way on or what, they had to do something because they have to get in front of more eyeballs for this to take off. And the secondary thing here is by putting on TV, even if they are paying for the space, I don't think the casual viewer knows that, realizes that.
Mhm.
And the potential sponsors see that, and it makes them a more legitimate brand to sponsor. And of course, they're trying to bring in sponsors and monies. I mean, they can't just keep giving out billions of dollars for all time and never recoup any money. So I think this was a move that they had to make. I think obviously they would have liked to not have to pay for the airspace, but it is a move they had to make, and we'll see where it goes from there, and we'll see how long that agreement works out. If they do well enough, if they draw in enough sponsors, maybe they flip that and they get a network to pay. But right now, this was probably their best avenue moving forward, especially because all the other major networks kind of have a tie to the PGA Tour already.
Yeah, I think the Fox makes the most sense.
Right.
And I also think the preacher Joel Osteen, he buys his TV time, and he doesn't look like he's hurting for money in any way. So yeah,
That's a great point. I
yeah,
mean, exactly. I mean, at some point, I think there will be people who watch it with a skeptical eye because it is a paid program. And if you've watched some of you've watched it obviously on the local channel, or I've watched some on YouTube. The announcing, and it's a little tough to listen to because it's just so over the top, fanboy, promotional stuff. So at some point they're going to have to tone that down a little bit. But I think for the near future, at least getting on TV will certainly help draw in eyeballs.
yeah. I'm in the same boat, and I also think they need a big American voice. There's a lot of British guys and stuff, and for it to hit, I like when they went after Charles Barkley. That made the most
Yeah,
sense.
that would have been something.
Are you
Yeah.
hearing any whispers about who might be on the broadcast team moving forward? I thought Joel Klatt was excellent when Fox had it before.
That's a good point. Yeah, Joel was very good. I know Fox kind of had that, quick foray into golf. Obviously, the U.S. Open, they ended up selling it back to NBC. They had some things that missed. They also did some things that were good, especially technology wise. So, and certainly, like you mentioned, Joel Klatt and some of the other people they had working the broadcast were very good. Actually, obviously, Greg Norman was part of that broadcast, that original Chambers Bay broadcast, which is funny enough. No, I haven't heard any other names. I mean, Liv, obviously, like you said, they were talking with Charles Barkley. That certainly drew a lot of headlines that would have, they're trying to be this revolutionary league. That certainly would have been revolutionary, getting a Charles Barkley to commentate on golf. Obviously, we've seen him do it at some of these, made for TV events, but to do it kind of full time would have been something. They did get David Faraday, which, he's not an American voice technically, but I think American golf fans obviously are familiar with him enough that he certainly counted as a big splash. But yeah, they could probably use another guy in there, even if it's a non-traditional guy.